This mouse is the worst mouse ever. Oh my goodness, this thing. It has shit for shit tracking. Good morning, everybody. How are you this morning? Our friend Michael is going to be on a little bit later on this morning. He has some work issues that he's wrapping up this morning. So you're stuck with me and my Joseph's Technicolor dream coat. It's I thought, I haven't worn this in forever. Let's wear this instead of a t-shirt today. So don't be freaked out that we're doing something different. So hang in there. So what is everybody thinking about the snowpocalypse that's coming? So I'm such a cynic. I've lived here 63 years. I've seen stuff come. I've seen stuff go. I'm like, it'll happen if it's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen just because David Payne said it's going to happen. Sorry, David Payne, but I'm pretty sure. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I felt pretty colorful this morning too. Thank you for noticing. So yeah, I have no idea. I just, we'll see, right? We'll just wait and see. It's been a ride for me for Oklahoma weather in 63 years. And so we'll see what we have in store this weekend. I will tell you one thing. However, my daughter is getting married in October and we have an appointment on Friday morning with the many of you know her name is Claire Kennedy. She is absolutely a wonderful, amazing seamstress, but also helps us work with the grassroots. But Betty and I are going over to have Claire look at, now I'm not kidding you, this is really true, my grandmother's wedding dress from 1919 is in impeccable condition. Don't ask me how. My mom's, I don't even know where my mom's is. It's gone somewhere. But my grandmother's has been saved since 1919. Not joking. So Betty is very excited because one of the things that Claire does is that she takes old wedding dresses and modernizes them or customizes them to the woman wanting to wear them. And so we are going to do that on Friday. And I'm telling you, It's not going to matter if there's 27 inches of snow on the ground. My daughter will want to go, and I will be obliged to take her. So I will be driving on Friday. So we're just going to kind of hoping that we don't get 27 inches. Otherwise, it will be a very long, slow drive over to Claire's house. So we'll see. There may be an adventure story next Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. So Lisa says, I'm prepping hard. Most sources are saying we'll get 4+, and ice will be bad, possibly no power. Dorn predicted it will be bad. Well, I trust Dorn too, so I don't know. So anyway, we'll see what happens. We have Gabe Woolley waiting in the wings to come on this morning. He's going to talk to us about some legislation, but I want to point out something before he comes on, because this is something I want to talk to him about while he's on. I'm going to share my screen with you for a second, because I want to show you something that I read the other day. And this is a bill, this was an article in Oklahoma Voice by the editor, Janelle. I think she pronounces it Steckline. I'm hoping I'm not mispronouncing it. I don't like mispronouncing people's names. Anyway, poor Janelle and I do not agree on most of the things that Janelle editorializes about in Oklahoma Voice. I'm sorry. I'm sure she's a very nice person. I just tend to not agree with her at all. But I read this. Oklahoma bill raises the question, are lawmakers champions of local residents or developers? This is super important, because it's an excellent question. And it's exactly what's going on right now if you are paying any attention to state politics. Planning Commission just turned down their application for a data center in Coweta. We're still, I guess the town board is still waiting to see the one that's been proposed for Luther. But those of us that are in this area absolutely do not want the thing. And this stemmed from if I remember correctly, and I believe I do, this stemmed from a lawsuit that was filed by a landowner who owned property that Walmart wanted to develop on the corner of, I believe it's Covell and Sooner in Edmond. And the people came into the Edmond City Council and said, no, we don't want that here. We don't really need another Walmart or whatever. I think it was just a Walmart market. It wasn't like a super center or anything, but it was a Walmart market. And they said they didn't want it. And the council, God love them, has put it off for 3 years, has said no. Well, the developer, I believe his name is Jim Tapp, is now suing the Edmond City Council for not allowing him to develop his land the way he wants to develop it. I guess I'm a little confused. Do developers have land rights, or do people have the right to not be imposed on by developers in their area? I mean, it's my personal belief that town councils, just like we all hope state representatives, like we know Gabe Woolley does, are more interested in individual rights of citizens, not protecting developers, not protecting that. So I'm just really very frustrated about that. I think it's important that we bring this issue up. We'll talk about the bill number in a second, but I want to bring on Gabe so that he's not sitting down there for 20 minutes going, hey, I'd really love to talk to you. So good morning, Gabe. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Waiting on the storm of the century.
Apparently we all are.
Dorn said, if lobbyists control our legislators, maybe they should pay our taxes that fund these projects. What do you think about that, Rep. Woolley?
They're welcome to pay taxes if they want. Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, So were you familiar with that bill, by the way? I can
What was
tell
the
you what
bill
bill it is.
number?
Hold on a second. Senate Bill 647.
No, I'm not overly familiar with any Senate bills right now that have been filed.
Well, this was from last year, actually.
Okay.
So you might stick that one on your radar.
Yeah.
647. And apparently what happened was it passed the Senate. It actually passed our Senate. And then I don't think it got over to you. And so it's still a live round for 2026. Yay!
Yeah.
So there you
There we
go.
go.
You might you might write that one down. Let's say it again. What was it? Senate Bill. Hold on, I got to go back up. Senate Bill 647. People write this down. Senate Bill 647.
Who was the author?
Give me just a second and I can actually tell you. If it'll load. Avery Fricks and Preston Stinson.
Okay.
So those are all very shocking. Those names are very shocking. So I can tell you, so the last thing, oh my goodness, Gabe. Hold on, I'm going to pull this in so we can both look at it at the same time. Okay, so share this tab instead. Okay, so here's the bill. So it was by Fricks and Stinson. So, authored by Senator Paxton, referred to local and county government, reported due pass, placed on general order, measure passed, 30 ayes, 14 nays, referred to House. House got a due pass in government oversight. Measure passed on the floor, Gabe, 52 to 39. I'm positive you didn't vote for it. I don't even have to look it up. 52 to 39.
So
then
it did come to the House.
Okay. It did. So it went to conference, and apparently nobody was able to agree on conference. So that's where it stopped. So it is a live round for upcoming this year. Boy, that is a big fat no. Julia says our city councils go to the dang municipal league. That is correct. Julia, ding, ding, ding. Prize for Julia for innovative ideas. 15-minute cities, just like our school boards go to OSSBA for board training. It's so true. Roy Rogers says, God wins, evil fails, Helen. You not necessarily true, Roy. Hang on to your saddle there, man. We have to make it through 2026. So I don't know, Gabe, what do you think? Because you've been in that area where now you've had a mosque actually turned down by Broken Arrow. So, and that's in your district, is it not?
Just outside, but it's in the town that my district is.
Okay, I thought it was close. Anyway, so we did have that happen. I mean, just out of curiosity to get things going this morning, what are your thoughts on this? City council gets to pick what's best for the town over what's best for the people thing.
Right. I mean, just the title there says a lot. For the record, I voted no. I just checked this bill.
I would have figured you. I wouldn't have even thought you had to check, but okay.
Surely, I also sit on government oversight, so surely I voted no twice on it.
Well, if you sit on government oversight, don't even let it come back.
If I had the authority. That's the thing. The chairs of the committee have that authority.
I know, which is, again, not fair, not right.
Kind of crazy, yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, what are you thinking? Do you think that there's, I mean, obviously we can't let this bill pass. There's just no possible way. But what is there some, honestly, Gabe, I'm like to the point of how do we protect ourselves from this overreaching BS anymore?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's going to be just getting the right people in office, and it's tricky because there's a lot of word games, and the way they paint it and the way they articulate it to people makes it sound not so bad. But we've got just things that are kind of more and more out of grasp for the people. I mean, Senator Sakier is talking about real ID, and more data collected on people. We've got this issue of Sharia law and it not really being an issue taken very serious by people who have more authority than a single representative. And like I ran a bill to require the history and reality of communism be taught 6th through 12th grade. The other reps didn't take it seriously. They like communism. Why are we running a bill on communism?
Yeah, but hold on. They love local control, Gabe. I mean, it's local control. I mean, up there, you can't do stuff like that because schools are under local control.
Right. They have
For those of you watching, that's a hearty har. They use that when they don't want to run something that's good, but they'll put a cell phone ban in for every school, whether you want it or not.
Which I voted no on that one, just because that's the job of the parent, not this government. So
wait, you mean parents have jobs, Gabe?
they are the caretakers of the children, unless the government does more and more and they become obsolete.
Well, don't you think that's kind of where we are right now? I was watching, and I don't want to talk about national politics because I'm not that person. I want to talk about what's under our feet, but I do want to point out, just because we talked about this one thing, I was posting a sheep video on Instagram this morning. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. They were adorable, so I posted a video. Well, after it uploaded, I got a video. You know how Instagram does, and it pops another video up there. And it was a video of a guy on a bus in Philadelphia, young guy, 20s guy. And he was with a buddy. And I didn't see the beginning of the video, so I'm not really sure what the context of it was. But he was just sitting there, and they said something, and some young lady flips out, starts spraying him with mace and trying to hit him on this bus. I do think that when we see things like that happening, like we're seeing in Minnesota, that happens. I am sorry, and you can be angry at me if you'd like, but I kind of tend to think that's a parenting problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it all starts in the home, definitely. At the end of the day, people make their own decisions. Yes, there's free will and stuff like this, but yes, it starts in the home with habits, and children are always watching how their parents are behaving, how they address issues. If their parents are attentive, they subconsciously develop habits from that. Yeah. So.
Well, and I saw this coming when I was a teacher in the 90s, because I'm all for parents. You're all for parents. We don't need to have that discussion. Everybody who's watching who knows this knows that we're all for parents. But I remember when I was teaching in the 90s, all of a sudden it was parents know best, not teacher knows best. And it was a big shift, and it was a fast shift from, your kid made an F on this. He just didn't do the work, to, well, I'm going to fight you and the principal for you to give him a D or a C so he can stay on the basketball team.
Right.
And when we ended up starting to do that kind of thing, I think we started producing these shrieking people who feel like it's fine for you to just, your feelings are more important than anybody else's, and you can just attack a person on a bus if they don't believe like you, or you can throw a pipe through their car window or try to keep them from going someplace. It's just,
it's that participation trophy mindset that my child deserves better, or this person deserves that because they want it and because they need it for something they want, rather than they earned it.
Well, and I want parents to have control, but I also want parents to raise mature children and not children that are spraying people with mace on a bus for having an opinion they don't like.
Right.
Gracie says one of the problems is that parents don't want to take responsibility for their own kids. It's so easy, they think, to let the government take control of them. And I wanted to put that in because of the fact that we were just talking about that. When the government steps in and takes control for the parents, it's so easy for the parent to just go, the school's got that covered, right?
Right. It's like it's free babysitting.
Well, we don't need that. So let's talk just a second about a very controversial topic, but I think it's an important one to talk about. Let's talk about this idea of Sharia law. Now, the mosque thing in Broken Arrow, you know, that was a totally, I mean, basically they had a city plan, and the plan wasn't for a large mosque there with other things around it. And it just wasn't going to be. And the city basically said, hey, we don't want that here. And really, honestly, if the people say, look, I live in this town, I don't want that there, the city council should, if it's a big majority, like it looked like it sure was, the city council better be listening to those people. I mean, am I wrong?
Right. I mean, they're supposed to represent the people so long as it doesn't violate the Constitution, what they're asking for. But then you get into this whole argument and this talk about freedom of religion.
Yeah.
But we have the right to bear arms. You can't use that gun to hurt or kill another person. So we have freedom of religion. It's not a free for all for an ideology or something that violates our Constitution. Islam and Sharia law hold tenets that don't protect women's rights or freedom of speech if you speak against Allah. So it violates principles of the Constitution. Of course, we went with the practical route argument with the Islamic Center in Broken Arrow. It wasn't compatible with the land or with the plan for the town. There were already two other places of assembly, a church and a event center in the same block. So it wasn't bringing in enough revenue for the city. So.
Well, and I mean, a church doesn't bring in revenue for the city anyway. I mean,
right.
They don't pay that kind of taxes.
There were other examples too. They're in the not far from that area. There's a Crunch Fitness that overtook an older Reesers building, and that was supposed to be a church, but that church was denied that building because it was in a place of gathering that generated no revenue, so they put a Crunch Fitness in instead. So that was a Christian church, so they were rejected as well.
Ew, and I don't know that I necessarily like, but anyway, here's the bottom line here. We have freedom of religion in this country, but we don't have freedom to do whatever we want with that religion in this country if it affects other people.
Freedom of religion is not a free-for-all.
And I think that's the problem that people don't understand. And there are a lot of, I've seen people on the interwebs, which we should all stay off of, frankly. I've seen people talk about, well, we have freedom of religion here in America. Well, absolutely we do. I cannot be fired because I am a Christian. I can't be thrown in jail because I'm a Christian. But that doesn't mean that I can go out. Here's a good one. That doesn't mean that I can go out on a street corner and assault other people and force them to become a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Or assault them in any way over my religion. Well, you have to understand, I'm assaulting you. You have to understand. I mean, that doesn't give me the right to do that. And I think even beyond that is the thing that you touched on that we had just a brief conversation about the other day, Sharia law. And because I said, well, I remember back in, and I don't remember, was it 2010? Because you looked it up. It was 2010 that Sally Kern wrote the bill, American Laws for American Courts.
That's when it passed the legislature and a vote with 70% of the people of Oklahoma.
So 70%, let's highlight that. 70% of people in Oklahoma voted for a state question that said that we would use only Oklahoma law or constitutional law, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Oklahoma, not foreign law. So 70% of people voted for that. Then what happened?
So it was no foreign law or religious law state question 755. And it passed with almost 70% of voters, and it passed the House and the Senate. So it was to be enacted, but there was a lawsuit filed, and this Islamic group and an individual, I can't remember his name, filed, and under the Freedom of Religion Act being violated, and there was a lower court that decided it was against freedom of religion, and then the 10th Circuit United States Court of Appeals agreed with that lower court's decision and upheld it. So it did not go into effect.
So let's point out several things, shall we? How do you feel about a court overturning the will of the people when it's constitutionally sound?
I I have my issues with judicial systems. You are making this decision and putting this decision. My understanding, I need to look more into this and confirm it. So let's make sure we can do that. I'm just going to give that disclaimer. My understanding is it seems like it was a judge that made that decision rather than a jury or a panel. So you've got one person. There's a whole reason that our American government is not a one person thing, that we have checks and balances, that we have judicial, the legislative, the executive branch, have that here in Oklahoma. But when it comes to the courtrooms, and we allow cases to get down just in front of a judge without a jury or without a panel of judges, or at least the Supreme Court where there's multiple judges, we run into a lot of problems there. Because then you're just appealing to that one person's judgment and their interpretation of that without any checks and balances or being able to. So you have the checks and balances governmental system of the passing the House and the Senate, and then 70% of Oklahoma voters, over 1 million people at least, versus one judge, or I don't know, I need to look it up, I said, but definitely less than 1 million of people on the opposing side, outweighing that decision with those numbers, over 1 million people. And so, the judicial system, when it comes to checks and balances and when it comes to accountability, I mean, I had lunch with someone yesterday that a single judge made the authority to sentence someone to life in prison for breaking and entering, and he had a personal qualm with the family. It didn't go to a jury. It lacks checks and balances when you put that much authority into one person's hands. And so that was the end of State Question 75 when I entered the courtroom, where things just go haywire a lot on that issue. But yeah, all based on the freedom of religion principle, or constitutional principle, which would love to hear what the founding fathers have to say about that. In fact, I've been doing a timeline and I've dug into what Thomas Jefferson had to say about Islam and Sharia law. So I can read you part of it if you want me to, but
I'm just curious. Yeah, throw it out there. That sounds interesting.
So
don't take an hour, but
this part's just less than a paragraph. This is the American commissioners. He's writing a letter. American commissioners to John Jay. He's writing this letter to John Jay on the 20th of March, 1786. The American commissioner, John Jay. And he wrote down here, he said, the ambassador of these nations that were wanting to infiltrate America during 1786, and that the ambassadors that answered us, that said that it was found in their law with their great prophet Muhammad, that it is written in their Quran, so he's encountering Muslims here in America, that all nations should not acknowledge their authority were sinners, that it was their right and duty to make war upon them wherever they could be found, to make slaves of them all they could take as prisoners, and that every Muslim who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise, that it was a law. This was the law, that the first who boarded the enemy's vessel should have one slave, more than his share with the rest, which operated in the incentive to the most desperate valor and enterprise. That was the practice of their courtiers, to bear down upon a ship, for each sailor to take a dagger in each hand and another in his mouth, and leap on board, which so terrified their enemies that very few were ever stood against them, that he verily believed the devil assisted his countrymen, for they were almost always successful. That was in a letter that was written by John Adams, the John Adams paper, concerning his encounter with Islam. I want to say, I need to verify this. At this time, I think he was the Secretary of State or something. He wasn't president or anything like that, but he was up there in that.
Well, was John Jay Chief Justice when he was writing that? Because remember, John Jay was our first Chief Justice.
That's very possible.
That's very interesting.
But it does say John Jay, so I would imagine so.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So this is the earliest years of America having an encounter with Islam, and John Adams saying, this does not work with our Constitution that we just established.
Well, and I think that's the thing that we probably need to, I mean, anybody who wants to come here and become a citizen, can practice whatever religion that they like. However, they cannot come here and say, well, guess what? We don't like your court system. We have to use our court system. And I think that's the problem that people aren't understanding. You know, I'm sure, honestly, we've talked enough that I think I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for you when I say, you know, whatever you want, your religion is your religion. Do your religion. I mean, I'm a Christian. I would be happy to tell you about Jesus, but, you know, do your religion. That's, you know, that's the where we are in this country. But you can't practice your religion by telling me that we need to change the law for you to practice your religion, or that you have to have a parallel law with the law that we have here in America for you to practice your religion. And I think people don't understand the nuance of that. And there's all this screaming about freedom of religion and you're a bigot and blah, blah, blah. No. And you're not going to call me, well, you can call me that, but you're not going to make me change my opinion because you call me a name. I mean, that's like nanny, boo boo. I mean, I don't care. That's not the point. The point has to do with the law. I mean, am I wrong? Am I barking up the wrong tree here?
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be a much stronger principle and requirement that there would be assimilation into American culture and society. And you can, with your friends, people in your home, in places that you've rented out or are utilizing, practice your religion, yes. But we're talking here about an infiltration of American society.
Sorry, I accidentally touched on it, but I wanted it. Your religion is your religion. Our law is our law. If you don't want to operate under our law, then you have an option. It's not to stay here. Go where that law is. Go where that law works for you.
Practice your religion within the parameters of our laws. And if you don't like that, you will have to find another nation that has different laws.
And then Catherine said, was freedom of religion for other religions to come take us over, or was it for us not to be under a centralized Church of America like the Church of England? Gosh, Catherine, I'm not sure. I don't remember any history.
Yeah, so it's the same as separation of church and state. It was to make sure that there was not a forced, with consequences if you did not conform, mandated state religion.
Yeah, but don't you think that that's part of the problem that we have today, Gabe, is that people really legitimately don't remember their history.
Right.
They don't. I mean, there's been so much stuff, and I don't know whether it's in schools or on the internet. I'm not going to play the blame game right now, but I am going to say that when you talk to young people, you hear this I hate America ideology coming through loud and clear, and you're like, okay, I'm substantially older. I'll give you that. However, nowhere, my goodness. I mean, we may have bombed Japan, but Gabe, what did we do for Japan after? I mean, we spent so many gazillion dollars in resources rebuilding Japan. We entered World War II, not because we were necessarily under the gun, but because we wanted to help the Europeans who were getting just, murdered over World War II. My goodness, can you imagine sitting in your home and being afraid a bomb was going to drop on you? This is what was happening in Europe. So I just don't, there are things that I think, and I'm not a warmonger because I know people are going to get, you have what? Because you know how people do, they like lock in on one thing. Well, she's a warmonger because she thought it was great that we went into World War II. I'm just saying, America isn't perfect, but I mean, America has been a lighthouse for so many people. Why do we have so many different populations here? Why would they come here? Do you follow what I'm saying? I mean, if their country's so great, why, and America's so terrible, why would they come here?
It feels like wanting to have your cake and eat it too. They want the American dream, but then they want America to be, they want their own lifestyle, and so they want to force everybody else to conform to that so they're comfortable. You actually have to assimilate to American culture, and we have protected rights and spaces like the privacy of your own home, or like a place, your business, how you want to run your business. There are places and spaces like that within the American dream that you can pursue and have that aspect of your life still partaking in. But when we come to the principles of law and regulation and how we operate as a society, we have to find a uniform way that works for everyone. And what we found to work for almost 250 years now in America, and clearly in comparison, is not working in Iran. And if Iran is ran over and overtaken by the people and taken back, it will have only lasted 47 years under Sharia law. So our test of almost 250 years, which has worked, is very much because of the principles that we've established, and which, of course, those principles were built under the biblical principles. I'm reading this book right now, "Stop in the Name of God" by Charlie Kirk, the last book he wrote before he died.
Oh, interesting.
And in chapter 1, he's getting into why America is so appealing to others, but then they want to come here and change it and all these things. But he's getting into the American principles of the founding of this nation and why it's proven to work and stood the test of time in comparison to other religions that have multiple gods or multiple ideologies that aren't tied to anyone. It's just kind of like a free-for-all, whatever fits your feelings, whatever fits your narrative. So,
well, you know, I have friends who work in large companies, and kind of universally, and I'm not saying, you know, it's a million people, it's a handful of people that I know that work in large companies. And because of the fact that large companies tend to be all about the bottom line and how much money they can make, there's been this huge influx of HB1 visas. So lots of people coming here from other countries, because this is so sad too, but it's true, and nobody wants to talk about it. HB1 visas so that they can get work that they wouldn't have in the country where they were, but they're paid a pittance compared to other, you know, other people in America would expect to be paid.
yeah.
Right? I mean, it's so sad. And so several of the people that I know that work in these businesses and that work around people from other countries, what ends up happening is they bring their value set from their country over here. And because they're comfortable with that, it's not even necessarily because they want to come over and go, well, we need to make America like India. I mean, it's not even like that. Just they're comfortable they grew up in a different lifestyle, right? Under different sets of laws and rules and societal rules. And they come over here and they're just used to doing things the way they did them, and they vote like they would had they been back, because it's just a comfort issue, you know. And I think that's where we have to work harder on. I get that it's a comfort issue, and I get that your country did it this way, but that's not how we do it. And we don't have to be mean or ugly, but you lose your country, you lose your societal mesh, your fabric, when you try to make everybody happy doing everything that they would be doing every place that they came from. That simply doesn't work.
Well, we can have the comparison when we're talking about Islam too, and statistically, individuals of Asian descent that immigrate to America are very academically and financially successful. Many of them keep their culture intact with their families, but they don't demand that the United States conform to Buddhism or some other religion. Indians, Hindus, also statistically very successful. I don't see any of them going in and demanding that our court systems and that our elected officials and this and that are all under the Hindu principles. They're here, they assimilate, and they stay true to their culture within the networks of their family and their friends and whatever type of church they want to go to. But they don't demand that the rest of the world does. Islam, this is what sets Islam apart. Islam is built upon conquering. Islam is built, as we just saw Thomas Jefferson's response to when there was an attempt to infiltrate with the Barbary Wars. Barbary was synonymous to Muslim at that time.
Yes.
And so you have to look at the fruit of it. What the Bible says, what God tells us, you'll know them by their fruit. Well, Islam comes in and conquers and demands and expands, but these other cultures in groups that I just explained that are very successful within the American dream, within the confines of the American dream, still holding on to their personal beliefs and customs and all that. We have a clear comparison of what it means to assimilate and not to assimilate, and to try to infiltrate and overtake the American dream versus adapting to it and still remaining true to whatever principles you want to hold. So we know it's possible.
Yeah.
And when we see it not happening, and when we see Dearborn, Michigan, New York City, Texas, Broken Arrow being attempted to be taken over, infiltrated there, that looks very different. And we have these other religions comparing it to. It's not happening with them, and they're very successful in many ways in America. So this is
Well,
what
we had a
sets
couple of
Islam
comments.
apart.
I mean, that was spot on. I mean, excellent job, Representative Woolley. Shelley says, spot on, Jenny. We also outsource many of our jobs globally. Isn't this as much of a problem as immigration? And that's another thing that we need to talk about. And then
Right.
Teresa says, in a democracy, your religion cannot dictate the law for others. The democratic process establishes the law. If you lose the democratic process, you'll most likely lose your freedom of religion. Your religion cannot usurp the rights of others. And honestly, Gabe, isn't that just the bottom line? I mean, that's just the bottom line. Do what you want. Practice your own religion. Do your thing. But you can't change the law for everyone else. It's not going to happen. And or you can't decide that you want to practice a parallel law because, well, now you're here and you need things to go your way. It just doesn't work that way.
And the argument's not even that complex because the numbers are there. America is approaching 250 years. Iran is collapsing after 47. So which one worked?
Ooh,
And
that's a good point too.
why would those want to bring in the identity and the politics and the whole system of Islam, which is clearly not working in other nations, and bring it into a nation that has been working for 250 years successfully? It's like, unless the objective is to actually destroy it, then I don't get it. You're like saying our option is better, and we're looking over at Iran and Egypt and Africa, and we're like, no, it's not. It's collapsing. Everyone's slitting each other's throats. Everyone is pushing back on each other. They're in conflict. They're in arguments. I mean, it's just, why are the people of the nation of Iran rising up against Sharia law?
Yeah.
It hasn't been working. But yet you want to bring it to America that has been working for almost 250 years. So why would we make that trade? That's not logical.
Well, and there's also another thing here too that's very interesting to me. Just to get off of that topic, but onto a similar, kind of a parallel topic here. The ICE thing and the screaming and the protesting and the all of this with ICE. And I've even heard some people that I literally would not have thought would have said something like this. Well, you can't take away their due process. This is part of the reason that some of these people are screaming. Well, this is not due process. This is not due process. So let me ask you, Representative Woolley. We do, as Americans, want to treat people, we don't want to put people in prisons and hide them. I mean, we're not communist Russia here. But do people who don't come here legally have the same rights as people who are citizens?
Well, due process is an American right for citizens. Yeah. When we read that Constitution,
where did we lose this conceptual idea that's not just conceptual, it's fact?
When we talk about people's rights and we read the Constitution is written for American citizens. It doesn't say, it doesn't have another section specifically for immigration if you have not become a legal citizen or have legal documentation. In it, more than that, committed a crime. Yeah, no, that's an American right. That's the identity and the certificate and the rights that we get to hold as American citizens. If you want those constitutional rights protected, you would have to become an American citizen legally, and you would need to assimilate to American culture.
So that didn't help me understand why we're screaming and yelling and saying that people, ICE is bad because they're not giving people their due process rights. I mean, I'm kind of stuck on that because I think education is important. And I think when we don't educate citizens properly, we have these misunderstandings that should not be happening. Because if you're here illegally, let me ask you this. So what would happen if I went over to pick a country and I just decided I was going to stay there illegally? I just went in, stayed there illegally. Do you suppose I'm going to get the same rights as the rest of the citizens there? Do you suppose? I mean, I'm just curious.
I've always heard a lot other countries are even more strict on illegal immigration than we are. They have not even come to this point. Like it doesn't happen the same way it has been in America, especially under the Biden administration that President Trump is having to clean up after. But America's always in the spotlight for it. It's the same thing. Like to date, Barack Obama has deported more people than Trump has, but you would never know that based off of what we're hearing because it's not in the media, it's not in the headlines. He still has not surpassed Barack Obama's deportation numbers.
I'm getting to the point where my confusion is becoming anger because I just don't say the wrong thing and make something up and then expect me to be okay with that. You can't just get mad at me because I don't want people here illegally and say, well, you just don't want people to have due process. I want people who are in America, who are American citizens, to have all the due process. Right. But if you're already breaking the law by being here not legally, we're on the wrong we started off on the wrong foot.
Yeah. Well, and there's the argument going around too. You're treating them like criminals. They haven't done anything wrong. They're arresting and deporting some people that haven't committed a crime. They committed a crime when they crossed the border illegally and didn't get the proper documentation. That is the crime.
Why is this so hard to understand?
What was that?
Why is this so hard to understand?
I don't know. They twist words and definitions and they desensitize people. A lot of it comes from the university. As I've been digging on this Islam timeline, lo and behold, it started with their scholars in their universities, in their schools. Just like it's the identical pathway formula for Marxism, Sharia law and Islam.
Yeah, it's Shelley says truth, Gabe. And Lisa points out other countries are twice as strict. Even Canada is very difficult to enter. So it's just, it is a frustration for me and it does make me cross. And I just wanted to be able to cover that today because one of the things that I really love about you is the fact that you know your history and you don't just throw things off the top of your head for emotional sake. It's hey, I can make a point by just saying blah. Well, saying blah that doesn't help anyone. What we need to do is educate people reasonably, right, about what's going on. And that means about why we can't have Sharia law in America, why we deport people that are here illegally. They're already breaking the law after they came here. I mean, I think there are not enough of us making these salient, reasonable points. And I think we just need to continue to do that.
Yep. And one of the big problems we'll run into is when the foundation in which you're speaking from is different than the person you're talking to. It's like you're speaking two different languages.
It is.
you can't reason with them. It's, I mean, again, this is what Charlie Kirk is getting into. Some other religion or people who want to say they're atheists, I don't believe there's such thing as an atheist. If you think you have no God, you think you are your own God.
Oh,
You're following your own reason, and that's your God. And so just this idea of basically we have the ability to do whatever we want and whatever feels good to us because we are our own determiners of what the definition of good and right and just is. That's why we're descending into chaos, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I tend to agree with you. So I would like to talk to you about some of the bills that you have filed that you feel like are really important, or even if you haven't filed them, those that you're following that you don't want to have happen, or that you do want to see, protecting Oklahomans. Can you kind of give us maybe a little run? Do you have a little rundown maybe that you can give us?
Yeah. So I haven't, the deadline for filing bills was the 15th.
Yeah.
So we're past that. I haven't dug into many other people's bills because I've been working on getting Senate authors, preparing for some amendments and this and that. So I don't know about bad bills that are out there unless they're going to rerun some of these crazy bills we tracked last year.
Well, and well, we know that SB 224 is coming back up. We've already been told about that. So that's one that we know. But again, that Senate Bill 647 that gives developers more say on how their land is used than the people do.
Right.
That's an important one. So what about those that you've filed that you'd like us to know about? I've got my pad ready.
So I am refiling the DHS/judicial bills that I filed last year. They have a different bill number.
Okay.
We've got HB 3484.
Okay.
And then we've got HB 3483. And one of these are the ones that are changing the preponderance of the evidence, which means that nothing's been proven. It's just a 51% chance something may or may not have happened. It would change that standard to clear and convincing evidence, meaning they actually have to prove something happened to keep your child away.
Okay.
And then it would kick back if the charges are dropped or dismissed. They would have to restore the family, return possessions, etc.
Okay.
Due process. So we're running those two bills again. I did file a bill on ad valorem tax on property tax. We don't know what language this is going to have yet. I reserved a spot. HJR 1065. Currently, it's written as if you are of legal retirement age 65 in the state of Oklahoma, it's your primary residence, you would get, there would be a property tax cut. But we're considering a few other options, and we might strip the language and try something else there. But we have a reserved spot for property tax attempts to cut property taxes one way or another, or a step in that direction at least.
So I got a question for you. So I don't know if you know this, but for years I have been hounding property tax because it's simply not right. I mean, I will never forget this. When I was mayor, I went to it's a, kind of like the model government, those model government things. And they have it every year. I think OML puts it on. And I went one year and I was in a group that was discussing city taxes. And several of the people in there were talking about how important it was to make sure that that one of the things that we needed to do was find a way to attach property taxes to pull more of those taxes into cities, to direct them towards cities. And I remember, because me being me, I said, why in the world would you even conceive of that? We need to just get rid of property tax altogether.
Right.
Okay, you should have seen everybody at the table go. Like I'd suddenly popped out an extra head like Medusa or something. They were like, you can't say that about property tax. We need that money.
Well, they've tied it into so many things. It's like this permanent knot of unconstitutional Yeah, I don't know. It's like all in our schools, and yeah, it's just so tricky now. I mean, it's not something we're going to be able to deal with, address overnight. We're going to have to be, it's a multi-year issue that we have to unfold and unravel because the government's become so big and the people have become so reliant on the government. You know?
Well, it's like, and I'm going to paint the different picture. I'm going to say the government's become so big and the people have become so little.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's made the people so little. And Gabe, of all the people, you know that the people are bigger than the government.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. We
Yeah.
are the government. It's we the people.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it ugh.
yeah.
This
And
is
surely
I
at
love
one point,
Shelley for many reasons, but I love Shelley for this reason, these 3 reasons for sure.
yeah. And Molly Jenkins ran several repealers last year they didn't let through. She's trying to do that.
Yeah. That was
So,
always my thought. Repeal, repeal,
yeah.
repeal. Get the book from this thick down to at least this thick and then continue working until we get it down even
I was
further.
told that we have one of the largest ones. Let's see, this is 2020 Oklahoma Constitution. It's supposed to be one of the largest in the nation, but it only gets bigger.
Well, until we elect people who are going to promise that they're going to try to make it smaller. That's what
Yeah.
we need.
Yeah.
Okay, so HJR 1065, and that's on property taxes, and you're working on that one. What else do you have for us?
Yeah, and so we've got I am running the fully abolish abortion bill
Okay.
because it can't be run out of the Senate, so we have to shoot it out of
Wait,
the House.
why?
So it was voted on in committee and didn't pass in the Senate.
Okay.
So now it has to come from the House because it had quote final action in the Senate.
Okay, yes. Okay, gotcha. All right.
And I was looking into one for higher ed, but we're not going to run that one this year. So
Okay.
let's see.
You mean like a bill to keep higher ed from getting taxpayer dollars?
It would have allowed the legislature to freeze funding for a higher ed institution if they were violating the law, or if they were partaking in practices that the Oklahomans have asked us not to partake in, such as encouraging women to become men and vice versa. It would have allowed us to say, you need to get rid of this DEI program or this class on gender studies, which exists at the University of Oklahoma still. And they say no, and then we vote and we say, okay, we're freezing your funding until you do it. From the state, just the state funding. Because money talks. That was the idea.
You know, that has been one of the just watching higher education, that has been one of my absolute just another one of those things that gets my blood pressure up. You know,
and we're paying for it. These are publicly funded state institutions that we're putting a huge chunk of money towards.
Which they shouldn't be, Gabe. I mean, if we're going to fund them, then make them free for the kids instead of charging them absolutely exorbitant rates. I
Right.
mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. You can't need that much funding. I mean, think about how much funding higher ed has. They have they have foundational funding, right? People just give them money for foundational things that OU, for example, how many buildings do they have with people's names on them because they just donated the money for them?
Exactly. So,
if that's the case, why are we taxpayers funding that? You're already charging kids out the wazoo for these things, and yet we're sticking into, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. They make a lot of money. They get donations. They constantly raising tuition prices. It's just like it's never enough. There was something I tweeted earlier last year or something like that about OU asking for donations for this or that. And I'm like, you guys make so much money. Pay for it yourself. Like, reprioritize your budget. You're
Well,
getting millions of dollars a year. Like,
or, if graduates want, really loved their time there and they want to give them money that's great. I don't ever want to feel like I'm putting the kibosh on somebody's desire to give their money. I mean, that's great. I'm just saying, don't put the gun to the taxpayer and get into my pocketbook and steal my money when you don't need it. Do with what you have. Whatever happened to that concept, Gabe?
working within your own means.
Yeah, where did that go?
I don't know. The people have to figure it out all the time unless they're on welfare. So the federal government can't seem to figure it out, nor many aspects of the state, like universities and this and that.
Well, and this is funny, Julia. If government didn't take our money without our consent, none of that garbage would be in public. It's true. And then Nancy says, whatever government funds expands. It's true. It's like, I remember when the kids were little, we used to get these I guess they were like little washcloths, and they'd suck all of the air out of them or whatever. And so they'd be a little tiny, and you'd throw them in the bathtub with them and they'd expand. That's what I think government is. I mean, you put a little it's like taxpayer dollars, are the water, and then poof, the thing just,
Yeah.
Please make it stop.
Yeah, it's a mess. And then, I understand there's a process to it, and society has to adjust. We look at Doge that Trump has launched and cutting back on things. So simultaneously to cutting taxes means we also have to cut government jobs and cut government spending. So we have to simultaneously be shrinking government as we are cutting funding. So we need to make sure we're doing both.
But you can tell I'm frustrated. So, because I do the thing. How do you cut government when we have taken so much government out of the hands of the people? Would you not agree that at this point, government is at least 50-50 bureaucrat versus direct representation, if not worse? I mean,
definitely. I mean, we know when SB 224 was pushing to be passed, there weren't constituents calling asking for that to be passed. They don't even know this bill
constituent is
exists.
going to go, hey, Representative Woolley, would you please connect these databases so my kids followed all the way from the time I put him into a public institution through all of the way of his life through work?
Right.
Who's doing that?
No
one.
Most Oklahomans don't even know that bill existed.
That's true, too.
We were just out there trying to protect them from what they didn't know was coming.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Gabe. Great conversation. Hey, I did want to chime in, Gabe, and I don't know if you hit this earlier. I heard the little part when you were talking about Islam and John Adams. And I just want to say, don't forget also, Jenny, that Thomas Jefferson sent the Navy over to squash the Barbary pirates.
Oh, that's true. The Barbary Wars.
That's another part of that whole deal in early America.
That's very true. The Barbary Wars.
Yes.
But Gabe did touch on that, though, just briefly.
Yeah, we got the Barbary states. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, there we
go. So we've got both Adams and Jefferson. Oh my gosh. The Jefferson would be turning over in his grave. In the state of Virginia, the lieutenant governor on Friday was sworn in on a Quran.
Yes, I saw that.
It's like, come on, people. Come on, wake up, people.
I saw that. Okay, so we've got the DHS, and I do need to ask you this because it's a huge thing. Do you believe we're going to have any traction over DHS this upcoming session at all? Or do you feel like because of the fact that it's pretty much a lame duck session that it's going to be kind of a free for all before some of these guys finally get out of those seats.
The problem is, I think everybody suffers from short-term memory loss or whatever. It's like we're doing important things. We're in the midst of dealing with this Sharia law thing because it's very in our face. It's very irrelevant that a lot of people have probably forgotten about the DHS issue, and a lot of people that had no interest or didn't want legislation to reform DHS are hoping we forget about it, and that we're so distracted coming in this year that it's not a thing and they just don't have to deal with it. But we have to have a long memory and we have to be persistent. I mean, I'm running the bills again. I'm rolling them over and running them again with some minor changes. We're going to start building a timeline and research on DHS and basically prove that it is unconstitutional the way in which it operates and was built, and it needs to be shut down and rebuilt from the ground up within the confines of the Constitution. That's a big project we're going to take on pretty soon. So you have to have a long memory and you have to have a good way of reminding people about things, because generally people move on to the next headline of the day. So, and those in power and authority are hoping they do, you know.
Well, you had a great interim study at the Capitol. Katie participated in that, and I think even brought in the allotments.
I did. And all through all that, not a single committee member asked any questions.
For you. Well,
Wow.
And they were kind of just waiting for it to be over, it seemed like. Obligatory. I mean, I think
the blood pressure is up, so hang on.
Well, on that DHS note, Gabe, I mean, I know that it's a, multi-headed hydra, of a monster to try to tackle, but what are we going to do about all the judges that just seem to play along, and make these decisions that are just completely irrational? I mean, even if DHS gets fixed in a way, the judge can still, are they still going to be able to do what they're doing in the first place?
I mean, that would be a whole nother avenue. You'd have to file a different bill that relates to judges, and it would still fall on the judicial. But I have my bills written in a way that would require the judges put them in some sort of parameter to have to operate in a certain way with DHS and interact in a certain way with DHS.
Okay, but let me follow up on that. What happens if they don't?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
because that's the second part of the bill, and that I am tired of bills that won't hold somebody accountable, because we all do this. Oh, well, this is great because this bill says blah, and then you end up finding out that they just go, I don't care if it says blah, I'm going to do what I want, and they get away with it, and I'm so sick of this.
Right. We have to use must instead of shall in the language, shall instead of may, meaning they have to do it, and then there should be some sort of consequence, which is what I filed last year. There would be criminal charges pressed on the DHS worker involved with fabricating evidence or with refusing to return the child, et cetera, et cetera.
Because, see, that would solve that. If they thought they were going to go to jail or they thought they were going to have to pay a fine, I guarantee you they wouldn't just be doing what they're doing now.
Right. But the argument on the opposing side was that this doesn't help us protect children because it makes more, and you're scaring our DHS workers and we're already short-staffed. And I'm like, I'm just asking you to follow the Constitution like the rest of us have to. That you have to prove something, that innocent until proven guilty, that you have a right to defend yourself, that, so.
I do think, though, Gabe, we've got to really, all of us, not just you guys in the legislature that are good guys, that are we the people guys. But I think, yep. And that's what I was just going to say, Catherine. I think all of us out here And then you guys that are We the People guys up there, we have got to start calling this emotional manipulation BS out.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to say it. I mean, and then when they say things like, well, we're not going to get DHS workers, if we do that, tell me how that's going to happen. Show me that that's the case. Is there any kind of research that you can provide that shows that? I mean, I think we're just going to have to start nailing these people to the floor on these emotional manipulation tactics, call them what they are, and make them explain themselves. Because if they have to explain themselves, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Porky Pig syndrome.
Yeah. I mean, the concept and the argument that, people would be too scared to work for DHS if they could be charged criminally, don't commit a crime. Like the rest of us are supposed to not commit crimes.
That's a hard
there are things
concept,
I
Gabe.
can't do as a legislator or that I couldn't do as a teacher, and I wasn't scared to become a teacher or a legislator. I just don't commit crime.
Julia said, but I mean, she's going back to what we talked about before, and that is something that I mean, Gabe, this has to be dealt with. I mean, we just can't have a judiciary where we have judges literally just making law up from the bench instead of following the law as it's written, or even just the rules for the agency. I mean, if the agency has rules that were promulgated from some law that was created by We the People,
Mm-hmm.
then they need to be following those and not just adjudicating from the bench.
Yeah. That's why when I'm running, that's why I filed my no Sharia law bill as a House Joint Resolution, because it would amend the Oklahoma Constitution, and a judge would have to operate off of the Constitution, because they're supposed to interpret the Constitution.
But why would you have to run a bill? Do you see what I'm saying? Why would you even have to run a bill?
I know. I don't know. It's just, yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, we've got lots of laws on the books that aren't followed anyways. There has to be consequences to it, enforcement to it, and then there has to be language in there. Law enforcement shall do this and that and all this,
Well, honestly, that's the one thing I think, if we could just get a handle on that, and if we could start forcing that one issue, I think we would see incremental change in the right direction. But, I mean, I've told this story 100 times, and Michael knows it. He can probably tell the story himself. But it was when we repealed Common Core from state law, and then realized that bill had no teeth, and we were still getting phone calls from parents going, but they're teaching it this year. I thought you took it out of law and made it illegal. Well, there weren't any teeth there. And so basically they just went, okay, well, thanks for letting us know. We'll use it as a guideline, and did whatever they wanted.
Yeah. We got universities doing the same thing with DEI and this and that, and we're paying for it. These are public universities. Which is why I filed the bill that we're going to lay over. But, we're still looking into the issue.
Well, it's got to be, but this is so true. I mean, I know this sounds almost farcical, but it's true. I mean, I saw that at the county election board, right? The goal is to follow the law as little as possible, to do whatever the heck they want to do. And sometimes this is to allow mothers to kill their babies, or an agency to kidnap your child. And the sad thing about it is that's pretty much actual.
Right.
I mean,
there's money tied to it per child, this and that, And so, it's just a huge mess. And when I ran my 2 DHS judicial reform bills last year with the criminal charges in it, the chairman of the committee when speaking to people, well, first he was like, you need to bring the evidence this is actually happening. And so I did. And the children are being wrongfully removed. And even after charges are dropped, they're not being returned. There's no proof of anything. And the burden of proof is too low and it doesn't require them to prove anything. So I did. And then he's like, okay. So the people that he went to ask for their opinion on whether he should do this bill were judges. And judges and attorneys, not defense attorneys. And I was like, yeah, that's because the bill is written in a way that holds them accountable. They have to make a judgment on DHS's involvement in this manner. Of course, they don't want the bill to pass. That's like, yeah, the bill would hold them accountable and require them to change their behavior. What did you expect to say?
That's got to be what we focus on. So I know you got to get off of here at 10:30. You got a hard stop. So would you please go over, kind of just give us a highlight, what you're working on? How can we help you?
Yeah. So what I try to do to represent my constituents and work for the people of Oklahoma, sometimes it looks like legislation, sometimes it looks like information. So we are in the process of still hoping to plan a informative event on Sharia law and Islam that held in Tulsa. We're looking into May. There's one at Sheridan Church in Tulsa that I'll be going to next month, but I'm still looking to host one and facilitate one myself as well. I'm running a bill that would effectively ban Sharia law. It says no religious or foreign law shall be considered in Oklahoma courtrooms. We are throwing support behind the property tax measure that Senator Shane Jett, the state question. I am personally, in my personal capacity, without any government resources or this or that, opposing state question for open primaries. I have a bill that we're going to shift some language that would make the Oklahoma's promise no longer discriminatory against homeschool students, because they have to have applied by the time they're 16, but public school students have until they're 18. So I'm like, okay, that's discriminatory. That's not going to happen. Like, it needs to be to 18 for everyone. So, and I am going to be working closely on an Open Meetings Act. I filed a bill to protect public comment at public meetings, like school boards, county commissioner meetings, this and that. But I instead dropped my bill and I'm joining forces with Senator Guthrie on his.
Okay.
And we're going to work together on that. So I'm still working on it. One thing I want people to know, just because we don't file a bill for something doesn't mean we're not working on that issue.
Thank you for that.
We can work on informing the public. We can collaborate and help another legislator get their bill across. You don't want every legislator trying to tackle the same issue, because we wouldn't get anything done. We're only allowed to run 8 bills in the House a year, to actively be running 8 bills a year. We can only file 8 new bills a year. So like I said, just because I've had people on Twitter be like, why aren't you running a bill for this or that? And I'm like, because I can only run 8. And Representative or Senator XYZ is already doing that. So I'm going to throw my support behind them. They're going to support me for what I'm doing. And collectively, we will address multiple issues. So those are some of the things we're working on. I'm going to reach out. My office is going to reach out to the Sharia Free America Caucus at the U.S. Congress, which Congressman Josh Burkeen is a part of, and offer to share and utilize resources back and forth with each other. What are we learning about Sharia law and Islam? What are your researchers finding? Here's what we're finding. What can we do together as conservatives? And yeah, had lunch yesterday with someone, and there's a potential wrongful conviction, someone in prison for life for something outrageous. And so I'll be diving into that and petitioning the governor on some stuff with that. But we're in the very early stages of that. So I've got my hands in multiple areas, working on multiple issues right now. Going to be working on sending out a survey pretty soon to former Muslims who left Islam behind and live in Oklahoma or America. And I'm going to survey them and get talking points and data from them to use in committee. So we've got a lot. Just different ways we're going to have to tackle this, because we have to shift and move differently, because we know in 2012 this measure was thrown out. So we have to
Yeah.
figure out what to do differently this time.
Yeah.
So building a couple timelines, you're going to build a DHS timeline for the history of DHS in Oklahoma. How did this happen? How did we get here? Same thing, going to build an Islam timeline. I hope to digitize them and publish them so that people can go through them.
Well, I do think I did a timeline on HB 2224.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but I did a timeline of data collection in
Mhm.
Oklahoma. And I do think those timelines are extremely helpful. I hope that when 224 comes up again, that timeline's being used and people are saying, hey, look, this is what's going on there. I'm just curious because we had a comment here, and I know you've only got a few more minutes. It says work on informing the public that you're wasting time on bills that are already covered by our Constitution. So I guess I'm not really sure what that means, but I think I can translate one thing. So there is a senator who is running a bill on something about Charlie Kirk. I don't remember what it was about, but I do think there are a number of bills that are what I call show bills. We're wasting time and energy on things that don't help people. I mean, running a bill that says Charlie Kirk was a great guy doesn't do anything for the people necessarily in your constituency. We need to avoid time wasting things and focus pretty heavily. Unfortunately, the Constitution doesn't tend to matter in this state, and we've gotten away from using the Constitution. And I would have to argue with you a little bit there, Noxie. The problem is that we don't tend to follow the Constitution. So I think it's very important that people understand when the Constitution isn't being followed and make sure that information gets out there, because it's being done daily. So
I haven't reviewed it yet, but someone sent me suggested language. Someone with legislative experience has sent me suggested, meaning they were once a conservative legislator, language on to put into the Sharia law bill, specifically law enforcement shall do this or this will happen type language. And so we're going to look into that too. Consequential language.
Yeah, because I do think that's important. Well, Gabe, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you got to jump off of here, but thank you so much for being on. Always remember, if you've got something going on that we need to know about, reach out to Michael or I, and we'll add it to what we can add it to get it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I will make sure to let everybody know when we finish this Sharia law, Islam timeline, DHS timeline, things like this, and make sure they're public resources for everyone that you guys can help pass on to.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again so much, Gabe. We really appreciate you, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. We'll look for those DHS bills and really try to back you up on that.
Thank you. Perfect.
All right. Take care. Bye. You have look at us today. We're like so colorful.
Simpatico.
I'm like so excited. I mean, look at your colorful shirt. That's very nice. So I don't know how much you saw about getting started this morning, but I brought up this bill, SB 647, about that was it's an Avery Fricks and Preston Stinson bill. I know Preston Stinson got a 0 on, I'm pretty sure he got a 0.
Yeah, he got a 0.
Yeah. So that's how conservative Preston Stinson is, the big ought, and ran this bill to make sure that developers have more say over land use in a city than the people who live in the city.
Wow. Well, and I mean, isn't that the whole point of your city government and zoning and all this stuff? Because city government works for the people, should be a representation of the people. The city councilman should represent the people's wishes, not the commercial interest of whatever. So I'm sure that's probably what's that in relation to?
Oh, it was directly in relation to the situation in Edmond where a developer wanted to sell Walmart Market.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember
Up
that
there,
one?
yeah, up there on Covell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everybody had the people, like they should, said, hey, they all showed up. They petitioned. They didn't want to do it. Now he's suing. He's suing.
Yes, the landowner, the person who owns the land, I think his name is Jim Tapp, owns the land, and now he's suing the city council because he says he can't develop his land the way he wants to. And my response to that would be tough toenails.
Well, if the people speak up and activate and say, hey, we don't want that here. I mean, that should be the end of that. And I'll tell you what, Jenny, if he's successful, I mean, that's just going to set a precedent for every single big dollar corporation to come in and do whatever they wanted. They're just going to sue you because they got the money to sue you, but they're going to force every city, every neighborhood, whatever, however. I mean, that's the ridiculous part of that whole deal.
I was just reading about and this is in another town. I want to say it's Michigan, but I'm not sure. So don't hold me to that. But it was a Google AI data center that they wanted to put in. And the town was saying, absolutely no way. The town board said, no, we're not doing this. We don't accept this. So Google brought in eight lawyers. You know what? I don't give a flying rat's backside how many attorneys you can afford. I just don't care. It's not even in my lexicon of interest. If the people don't want it, the people shouldn't get it. Period.
Yeah.
And there's been some consternation here in Luther because we put out the little thing that we were putting on mailboxes to get people to this meeting was Luther under attack. Because of the fact that this area around the Redbud power plant is where they want to put there's been interest in battery storage. There's been interest in this data center. These things are happening in this area. The people in the town or to the far east in town, because we're on the very western border, they don't know anything about this. They're like, I don't, it's not going to affect me.
Yeah.
But the problem becomes when you wake up one day and you're like, all you can hear is from the OG&E Redbud plant. And you're going, I don't think that's going to get any better if we have a data center. Oh, and now you want to put some high voltage transmission lines over my property. Oh, and now we want a battery storage place. Here's the thing. I'm 63. We bought this property, golly, I guess now it's been 14 years ago, when my husband and I were considerably less old. We've put all our money, all our time, all our effort into this property. We expected to retire here and stay here. It feels like an attack. It feels like you're being attacked because you're like, wait a minute, now I'm going to have to put up with a data center beyond the power plant and these. It feels like an attack. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to go, okay, well, I'm 63. Let's just start over.
Yeah. Well, Jenny, once they get their foot in the door, there's no telling 10 years from now what's going to be happening in and around those data centers and everything else.
Now, and if I wanted to live by a data center, or if I didn't really care about my property or anything like that, I could have moved to a place, around an industrial area.
Yeah.
But you can't put an industrial area in the middle of a bunch of homes. I think there's a guy who actually has counted out here. It's like 450 rooftops within something like a mile of that, or 2 miles, surrounding that. You can't just do that. You can't just go, oh, these 450 rooftops aren't going to care. Those 450 rooftops, all of them, I would imagine, have significant investment in that property. And you think that it's not going to lower the property values having a giant transmission line or a battery storage or a data center with everything that's all of the problems that these things can cause? You don't think that's going to significantly diminish my property investment? And I'm just supposed to go, oh, okay, well, sure, I get it. The town needs a new fire truck. Really? I mean, I don't think people have the correct perspective on this issue. And I think people need to really stop and think about that, because I guarantee you, if this was happening to you, you wouldn't think it was so blasé.
Yeah. Well, and mark my words, Jenny, just mark my words. The next like evolution of digital oil is going to be compute. That's going to be, and that's what all those data centers are for. It's going to be like a national interest, some type of, it's critical to the infrastructure of the United States. And that compute is going to go off the charts to where we can't survive unless we have 1,000 new data centers, plugged in all across the country or this. I mean, I guarantee you compute is going to be the future of, it's the next, digital gold, digital oil. It's going to be compute.
Well, here's the funny thing. Noxie Love actually said it right as you did.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
It's almost comical. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's almost comical because it's so, stop collecting the data and we won't need the data centers. Duh. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just think that at this point in time, we've got to go back into history and realize what city councils and what our state reps and our state senators are there for. Why do we elect these people? Do we elect them to do what's best for the state or the town? Or do we elect them to protect the liberties of individual town members or individual citizens of Oklahoma? What are we doing here?
Well, that's the thing. It's the trade-off of, the genius level marketing and advertising. And those people are just promising handout, after handout, after this or this, or, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to do this. They never say, I'm going to reduce the size and scope of government. They never say, I'm going to, at all costs, protect your rights and your liberties and give you back more freedom and more independence. They never say that because people just, the mass general public, until I guess maybe until they're affected enough, they just want, hey, I want that new fire truck, Jenny. I want to see it, in the parade next year.
Well, our town needs. Well, but wait a minute. Our town needs don't usurp or overshadow the needs of the individual.
Yeah.
They don't. And it's really sad because I've heard this argument, being made on numerous, you can see these things over social media. They're just flooded. Coweta voted down their data center the other night, which was fabulous. They had, I think, over 300 people in Coweta. Isn't that all of Coweta showed up for this meeting? Anyway, it was a huge meeting. And rightly, the town leadership said, you know what? Sorry, guys. You're looking at these people. They're telling you no. We're their representation. We got to tell you no.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. It's the same thing with the mosque in Broken Arrow. Sorry, guys, there are 1,000 people here. They're saying no. We have to say no. You don't go, oh, well, there might be millions of dollars attached to this that are going to help our town. No. No.
Well, yeah, that's the whole selling point is how much money, how much tax, this, that, benefits, all these things coming into the town. I mean, it's not for the town in any capacity. It's not there to help. It's there to exploit, in my opinion, the natural resources of that area. That's what it's for.
Well, and Shelley is smart, and public trust like development authorities, and we'll have fewer problems. And, I do think that is one of the worst problems that we have. And I think an elected representation, somebody in an elected space needs to start dealing with development authorities, because part of what's happened in a lot of towns is that these economic development authorities, the rules that govern them allow them to not be transparent to the people to protect working relationships with those wanting to develop the economy. That is absolutely the worst possible thing that can happen. And, it's, I guess, kind of, well, it's not the same thing. I was going to kind of maybe paralyze, which isn't even a word. I was going to conflate is a word, though. I think I was going to conflate economic development authorities with homeowners associations, because in a way there is some of that. There's just not a lot of there aren't a lot of inroads for we the people. And I don't think people understand economic development authorities and the rules that govern them. And that does need to be something that is at issue. Oh, yes, Shelley. Yes, this is correct. Make non-disclosure illegal. Jana says the Oklahoma Promise homeschool students have to get a different score on the ACT in order to qualify. Many public school students do not require an ACT score. Rick West has filed a bill on this. Okay, so I'm going to be unpopular. Are you ready? We shouldn't have the Oklahoma Promise in the first place. We shouldn't. So we shouldn't be looking at making it appropriate for every kid. We should be looking at getting rid of it, period. This is a state-sponsored scholarship. What is a state-sponsored anything? Where does that money come from, Michael?
Well, it's probably coming from me.
So do you feel like you have the ability to decide where you would like to put money for a scholarship?
Well, I should if it's coming from me, but I don't, I guess.
Well, I'm just saying you can use your money and provide a scholarship to a child or to open a scholarship at a university on your own. The state should not be providing scholarships to anyone. So I'm going to be infinitely unpopular on this. Oh, well, let's get a bill that's going to help the homeschool students get the same perks from the taxpayers that the other students get. Granted, if there is a law, it should apply equally to everyone. That's justice. That's the way the system works. However, I'm sorry, we should be doing away with the Oklahoma Promise Scholarship, because individuals can fund whatever scholarship they want, but it's not right for you to take my tax dollars and give them to other children for a scholarship. No.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of the extension of that welfare state, and Robert, hits it right there in that comment. But if you allow someone to qualify for something because they don't have to apply themselves equally like everyone else, or have, make themselves better in some way, then they're gonna stay at that level just to get that benefit.
Well, and it kills me that even small government people who are normally small government people, are going to stamp their feet when you say, well, you can't have this. It's a government program. Well, but my child, blah, blah, blah. No, you don't get an exemption from small government just because it's something that could help you. It doesn't work that way. It shouldn't be helping you. That's not government's job. Is not to help you. It's to protect you. They are not the same concepts.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not sure. Yeah. And see, I'm totally with Jules on this. Teach everyone to shake down their neighbors. What could go wrong? So I know that there are some people out there like the homeschool I'm with the homeschool students, or the homeschool groups 99 times out of 100, but I'm not with you on this. The practice should be ended together. Altogether. Yes, it should work for everyone. Justice should be served on a constant level, but this is something that should be removed altogether, not modified. So, if you're for small government, let's at least agree that the government should not be taking money from you and me to give it to scholarships for people. It's the same problem that we had with that the homeschool students, or that the homeschooling people have had with this giving taxpayer funds to put kids in private schools, the voucher system. If you don't like the voucher system, you can't like the Oklahoma Promise. Just saying. What were you going to say, Michael? I'm sorry.
Well, it's just funny that one relationship that most Oklahomans, see and love is, let's just say, sports in one way or another. And ultimately, what just always cracks me up when you're talking to like liberals, or, some of these people that are all in that kind of mindset, is you see like when you think of like professional sports, like football, like professional football, professional baseball, whatever. They're like the apex athletes of that sport, or whatever it is. There is no DEI in there when it comes to, hey, this team better have, this many white guys, this many black guys, this many Asian guys, this many, this many Catholics, this many Islamic people. That it doesn't happen like that. And that's how business is also. If you're good, you're going to, and I just try to teach that to my kids all the time. This is the land of opportunity. If you work hard, you will win, period. If you outwork everybody else, in the end, you will win. And that's what it comes down to, is people don't want to work. They want to just get all these handouts, oh, I feel bad. I should get this scholarship. Oh, I'm from this house. No one can say anything like that to me. I grew up literally as poor and as bad and one of the worst childhoods you could possibly have. But that made me into the responsible person that I am today. I could have chose to go down that same path, but I didn't. I took responsibility and told my mom, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to treat my kids like that. So it comes down to just that personal responsibility aspect. Now teaching my kids that they're responsible for themselves at all times. No one's here to bail them out and do everything for them and just give them, free reign on everything. They're responsible. And I try to teach that every single day. And that's just where we've devolved to, is the government is everybody's daddy. Everybody's mommy, takes care of them, gives their, whatever you want, you can do this, that, you just have to play ball with them. That's what I hate about this whole deal is, people are just lazy. Ultimately, we're just going to take the easy way out, let the government win, let the government do whatever they want.
Well, and you got to remember too, that part of what's going on is that the government is actively attempting, especially at the federal level, to elevate certain businesses over others. So I'm not sure that I agree with you anymore that if you work hard, you can make it, because what we've done is through special interests over and over again, we've put regular people under specific laws to make it harder for them to do business than it is for the special interest to do business.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why do you
Well-
think we have Vanguard and BlackRock and all these giant corporations that own everything? Because the government has spent time nudging Michael and Jenny out of the workspace, you know?
There is no doubt about that, Jenny. I won't not disagree with you, but I still believe 100% that if you do what has to be done, if you do the things other people don't want to do, you will win in the end.
Well, I will say,
I mean, the government does pick winners and losers, but you can still make whatever you want out of your life if you just do it. If you put your mind to it and you do it, no matter what corporation or whatever's out there that wants to squash you, you can still win them. And that's how I feel in my heart.
Well, and I will agree with you that you're certainly more apt to make something of yourself through hard work here in America than you are in, say, Canada, for example. Just because regulation in so many provinces in Canada is unrealistic. You just simply can't beat the government at their own game. But I do think that we have so many, the one thing that we have to do is every time we see something like the Chamber of Commerce saying, well, we need this subsidy or we need this, we need to stop and go, no, that's not how it works. Everybody should have a level playing field, which means that the government stays completely out of that.
Yeah.
And then we can do that kind of thing, because it is very hard. I listen to people who have small businesses talk about the regulation that they're under. Well, I can't do that because I have to file this. Well, but you know what? If I don't, they're taxing me on this and I have to pay it. So I mean, I hear this kind of thing a lot. And so I know that we're over regulating private business in this country, and we need to make that stop.
Well,
and we're doing it in this state.
Yeah. Well, and that's on purpose because the government does not want competition.
Yeah.
So they make it incredibly hard for you. The government, the globalists, the elitists, whatever, the swamp, it's all the same thing. They don't want competition. They want to do all those jobs and make those, make all those decisions for us. So they don't want us, being able to think and act on our own. But I'll tell you what, it's just like when I say responsibility, I mean, I just say it across the board. I'm responsible for my own health. If I'm sitting here eating McDonald's and Doritos all day, I can't expect Jenny White to pay for me to go to the doctor. At some point, it's my responsibility to eat right and know what nutrition is and know what, good exercise and be responsible for myself. But that's the disconnect, because people used to be like that. That's just how Americans used to be. Now everybody's just like, gimme, gimme, gimme. Don't step on my toes. Don't make me upset. It's just unbelievable that we've turned that kind of corner. But to me, it's just all propaganda. It's through the media, your cell phones, just constant propaganda that we're owed everything. I don't want to be owed anything. I want to earn every single thing I do, because that's what gives me the satisfaction every day is I fixed it or I did it or I built it, in one way or another.
Yeah. So Noxie says this, which is so true. Sadly, my kids have noticed, her kids have noticed that in order to get ahead, they need to start a business that gets government contracts or subsidies.
Yeah.
So who are some of our favorite ladies with Pike Off OTA? How many times have they proven this whole contractor, issue? I mean, the government contractor thing is way out of control in Oklahoma, and there needs to be a functional way to put that back on a level playing field. I mean, there's just no way around it. So are you all prepared for snowpocalypse?
Well, you shouldn't even ask me that question. I'm prepared for no food, no electricity, no everything for years if I have to be. So snowpocalypse is just another day. If it even happens. I mean, Jenny, if it even happens. We live in Oklahoma. It may not even happen.
That always is what makes me laugh. Weathermen in Oklahoma think they actually have some lock on the weather. I'm like, you don't. Nobody knows what's going. I mean, good night. It's hysterical.
I think I've told you before, when I first moved down here. So I lived in the Panhandle out in Guyman, and we get news from Amarillo. So our news is not, or at least at that time when I lived out there. So our news wasn't that right on spot, at least with what was going on out there. So the weather was never really an issue, and the weather's really bad out there. I mean,
it's terrible. It is terrible.
Massive swings of stuff.
Yes.
But when I first moved down here, it was in 2000. I remember I moved down here in the spring, and Gary England was on the news, and I literally thought I was going to die. I mean, there's a tornado coming into town, maybe, whatever. I mean, I'm like calling my mom. I'm like, Mom, there's a tornado. It's like coming right towards my apartment, and I literally thought I was going to die. Nothing happened. I mean, I'm like, I'm not watching the news, the weather down here anymore.
It's a, Shelley, come on. It's more predictable with cloud seeding.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Julia said this, we got to get this one in before we get off today. My neighbor who works for his dad said, we got a government contract, so they'll pay 3 times as much for the same work. We're set.
Yeah.
In a million years, that's not okay. I mean, in a million years, it's so frustrating. Well, I'm prepared for snowpocalypse as well. Although I have to say, I am slightly worried about the greenhouse plants because my goodness, if we lose power, I'm going to lose everything in the greenhouse. So I'm going to go out and, I have this row cover and I'm going to try to wrap everything up, so if it does end up, we lose power or something, then because we won't be able to run a generator.
Have a little generator out there or something?
No, not. I mean, you just can't. You would have to run the generator. So, I mean, it just wouldn't be worth it to try to, keep it up. So I'm just going to have to pray that that doesn't become an issue, because we do have a generator, but that's going to have to be used for water mainly. So, you never know. We'll see what happens. We might have a lot to talk about come Wednesday next week. We'll have to see. Okay. And speaking of that, on Friday, we have our friend Neanne Clinton is going to be on to talk about some farm legislation that we need to follow up on. And sadly, our friend Sandra Trawick is being targeted again with legislation. And I'm sure Neanne is going to talk briefly about that. But when you have legislators targeting individual citizens when really they're supposed to be protecting their liberty to do what they want, and you're targeting them with legislation that will prevent them from being able to make a living, I think that's criminal, frankly. And I don't know how you couldn't be sued for that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough. We'll have to see. But Neanne will be in on Friday. And then next week, we'll have Kendra Wesson's coming on Wednesday to talk about education bills. And then after that, we're going to have Sarah Van Alstein's going to be on talking about healthcare bills that are coming up. So we should be able to round out the month on that topic before we get started next month with our legislature going back into session, trying to ruin our liberties every chance they get. So we'll have to, really be engaged and stay on top of it. So
hey, Shelley's got a solution for you there.
You need geothermal piping. Oh, no. That's not a bad idea to think, but geothermal is so expensive to put in. I'm not sure it would be worth it. And I'm pretty sure my husband would say, I'm not paying that price tag, but that's an idea. And I will absolutely bring that up to the engineer in the household. So thank you for that. All right. Anything else before we get off of here today?
No, that's it. I just hate that we're, I think so many people, they just laugh when you say that, Marxism is just creeping into this country at like speeds that I don't even think we realize. And when you say something like that, they think back to like, the Russians and, post, all the Cold War stuff and Marxism. I mean, it's like no connection. They just think you're literally crazy. But that's, my fear is that it is just literally, coming, and it's not unveiled, to the public, and they just have no idea what's happening.
I agree, but that's what we try to do on this program. Every Wednesday and Friday morning at 9 a.m. That's what we try to do, is make sure at least you and I are talking about these things. And if people want to listen, fine. If they don't, fine. But at least we're talking about them. So, and thank you to everybody, all our loyal watchers and our new watchers. And we really appreciate you. And thank you for being with us. And we'll see you again on Friday at 9 a.m.